Democrats win on healthcare, environment, women's rights, respect for but on those issues, I bet you that are the big ones that they vote on more: crime, immigration, wars, economy, corruption. So that's the takeaway there.
The only thing the Democratic Party stands for today is opposition to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I just read Kamala Harris's new book, 107
No,
Days.
you didn't.
I did?
No.
Kamala Harris just dropped her latest so-called literary masterpiece, an autobiography that reads more like a 300-page excuse for losing the election. Spoiler alert. Accountability didn't make the cut. Every page drips with selective memories, self-pity speeches, and poetic-sounding political fluff that falls apart the second you read it twice.
Democrats win by 2 points on respect for democracy. Now, some of this is just because people are stupid.
But then strides in our anti-woke gladiator, Bill Maher, wielding his scalpel of
But then storms in our anti-woke gladiator, Bill Maher, armed with sarcasm sharp enough to cut steel. With zero anesthesia, he dissects Kamala's excuses one by one, exposing her as a confused, out-of-touch performer pretending to be profound. Buckle up, this takedown's about to sting.
Harris's new memoir of the 24 election is called 107 Days, but it should have been called Everyone Sucks But Me. 107 Days is a victim's title because, get it, she only had 107 days to win. Yeah, and $1.5 billion, and a built-in army of about 75 million people who'd vote for any human-adjacent life form that wasn't Trump.
Bill Maher kicked things off by shredding Kamala Harris's new book title, 107 Days, to him. That title alone was a masterclass in political spin. Another poor me tale wrapped in self-pity. Maher wasn't buying a single word of it. He reminded viewers that Kamala had one of the biggest campaign budgets ever, glowing coverage from mainstream media, and an army of 75 million voters ready to back anything with a D beside it. So crying about only having 107 days? Please, that's not tragic, that's comedy gold. Maher said out loud what everyone else was thinking. Kamala had every possible advantage and still managed to trip over her own success story.
In 107 days, nothing is ever Kamala's fault. Biden lets her down by not stepping down sooner. Pouty face emoji. Gavin Newsom, he was asked for his endorsement, but texted, "Hiking will call back." But then never did. And then he didn't even ask her to prom. America itself lets Kamala down by not being ready for the running mate she really wanted, Pete Buttigieg. So she's stuck with the Home Depot paint salesman. And the rest is herstory. Poor Kamala. We made her the star of a rom-com and didn't even give her a gay best friend.
Kamala Harris didn't just write a book. She dropped a full-blown political telenovela. Inside, she boldly tosses her old boss, Joe Biden, straight under the campaign bus, claiming he refused to step aside soon enough for her to swoop in and save democracy. And if that wasn't enough drama, she slips in a few sharp digs about his mental fog, because apparently loyalty was never her strong suit. But Kamala doesn't stop there. She broadens the blame game, pointing fingers at America itself for not being ready for a female president. Why self-reflect when you can deflect, right? And just when you think the plot couldn't twist any harder, she blames her downfall on not getting her dream VP pick, Pete Buttigieg. Classic Kamala move. When the mirror gets uncomfortable, she finds a scapegoat.
Kamala writes that on election night, when it was clear she'd lost, an aide peeled the words "Madam President" off the cupcakes before handing them out. Oh, geez, that's like a scene from Bridget Jones Runs for President, for Christ's sake.
Now, this part deserves a permanent spot in the Comedy Hall of Fame. Kamala actually blames part of her campaign's collapse on, wait for it, one of her own aides, who supposedly sabotaged her by peeling "Vote for Kamala" stickers off cupcakes before handing them to voters. Yep, according to her, that tiny act of dessert disloyalty triggered the political butterfly effect that doomed her entire run. But here's the hilarious twist. The aide only did it because by then it was painfully clear Kamala had already lost to Donald Trump. So yes, cupcakes are now officially part of America's political tragedy. Bill Maher couldn't stop laughing. calling it a frosting-level conspiracy that proves Kamala didn't just lose the race. She lost the plot.
Look, ladies, I know this isn't fair, but we're all always running against the worst cliche of who people think we are. Women Democrats can't look oversensitive or preachy or unable to laugh at themselves. They also can't look silly, like Gretchen Whitmer did, trying to hide in the Oval Office. They have to look brave and strong.
Exactly, that's the perfect breakdown. The women of the DNC have built this carefully polished illusion of invincibility, fierce, flawless Amazons who never flinch, never falter, and definitely never show a moment of vulnerability. It's not about authenticity. It's about optics, the performance of power. They march out the Iron Lady persona, treating emotion like weakness and empathy like a liability. Every smile feels rehearsed, every speech perfectly scripted, all in a desperate bid to prove they can play and win in what they still see as a man's game. But here's the irony. In trying so hard to seem unbreakable, they only come off as mechanical. Real power doesn't come from pretending you're made of steel. It comes from being brave enough to stay human.
It wasn't a good look for the woman party that all the guys were speaking out for Jimmy Kimmel when Trump went after him, except on the woman show, where for 5 days the outspoken hosts were suddenly as quiet as a geisha.
Exactly, that's classic Maher energy. He saw right through the View's sudden case of selective courage and wasn't afraid to call it out. The ladies love to posture as fearless truth-tellers, but when Jimmy Kimmel got suspended and rumors started swirling that their show could be next, their moral megaphones went mysteriously silent. No fiery monologues, no grandstands, just carefully calculated quiet. But the second Kimmel's return was confirmed, boom, they were back loud and righteous, acting like they'd been bold all along. Maher's takedown was brutal but fair. He exposed the performative nature of their outspokenness. As he put it, their courage isn't conviction, it's convenience. They only roar once the coast is clear.
Then on the 5th day, they rose and said, "No one silences us. No one had to. You silenced yourself." Whoopi Goldberg continued, "Did you all really think we weren't going to talk about Jimmy Kimmel?" No, I thought you would, but then you didn't. 5 days? Talk about needing extra time to get ready. And if you can't take a breath and laugh at that, you're making my point for him.
Sunny Hostin, Whoopi Goldberg, and Ana Navarro have become the very symbols of selective bravery. Loud when it's trendy, silent when it's risky. These women built their fame on outrage, using cancel culture as their favorite weapon against anyone with a different opinion. But the moment the fire turns their way, they suddenly become calm diplomats, avoiding the same outrage they once encouraged. They know exactly how vicious cancel culture can be. After all, they've led plenty of those takedowns themselves. And now, in a twist of poetic irony, they're terrified of being its next victims. It's like watching justice warriors flee from their own monster. Still, that doesn't stop them from turning around and unleashing the mob again and again. Their hypocrisy isn't hidden. It's a full-blown performance, scripted and shining under the studio lights.
Some new polling came out, and this is really, I'm speaking to the Democrats especially here, because Trump's numbers are down. They're down with Latinos, they're down with blacks, they're down 15 points with whites. And when whites say, "You're not hip anymore," ooh. And yet, in the other poll, on issues, Trump still winning. So this is your big opportunity, Democrats. He's down in the numbers, and you still can't score.
The DNC is falling apart, and it's starting to look like a sequel nobody asked for. There's no real leader in sight. No one strong enough to inspire trust or guide the party through the chaos. Instead, it's trapped inside its own echo chamber, still moving to the rhythm of the fringe woke crowd. It's like a political greenhouse where groupthink thrives, and any hint of disagreement gets crushed before it can even breathe. Rather than face hard truths, they're living in a fantasy, confusing viral hashtags with actual strategy. And now, to make things worse, Kamala Harris is throwing her own team under the bus. Instead of taking responsibility for one of the biggest stumbles in DNC history, she's busy rewriting the narrative and shifting blame. What we're seeing isn't leadership. It's confusion dressed up as control. And once again, it's the Democrats paying the price.
Democrats win by 2 points on respect for democracy. Now, some of this is just because people are stupid. 2 points on respect for democracy. Democrats win on healthcare, environment, women's rights, respect for democracy. But on those issues, I bet you that are the big ones that they vote on more: crime, immigration, wars, economy, corruption.
When it comes to sheer popularity, Donald Trump might be losing a bit of steam. And honestly, who didn't see that coming? Keeping up rock star level energy after pulling off one of the biggest political comebacks in history is no small feat even for Trump. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But here's the catch. While the polls might dip, he's still dominating where it truly matters: the kitchen table issues that keep Americans up at night. On the economy, voters still link his name to lower prices and bigger paychecks. On the border, he's the one who sounds dead serious about fixing it. And globally, his unapologetic America First stance still commands attention. So no, Trump might not win over brunch crowds, but when it comes to results, he's still miles ahead of the pack.
Democrats win on healthcare, environment, women's rights, respect for democracy. But on those issues, I bet you that are the big ones that they vote on more: crime, immigration, wars, economy, corruption. So that's the takeaway there.
The only thing the Democratic Party stands for today is opposition to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I just read Kamala Harris's new book, 107
No,
Days.
you didn't.
I did.
I'll say a lot of lies on this show, but I will not.
Honestly, that's the Democratic Party's entire strategy in a nutshell. The never-ending Stop Trump tour. It's not just their slogan. It's their identity, their pastime, and their full-time occupation. They've drained every ounce of political fuel from the anti-Trump engine like it's the only thing keeping them alive. Sure, it carried Biden to victory once, but when Kamala tried to recycle that same tired script, voters collectively rolled their eyes. The public's exhausted from years of Trump bashing and desperate for something real: ideas, direction, and leadership. But when they turned to the DNC, what did they see? An empty stage, a fog machine, and no plan. No economic vision, no border strategy, no genuine connection to everyday Americans. The Democrats built their whole brand around opposing one man. And now that the outrage has faded, all that remains is an echo chamber. Hollow, lost, and painfully out of touch.
What happened, but I was looking for, okay, and what's the plan for the future? There wasn't any, and she's just indicative of the party at large. And by the way, that's one of the reasons she lost.
She's rewriting history in the book, too. She's now against men and women's sports. Like, come on. Like, they tried to dismantle Title IX against women when she was vice president.
Right. I mean, that's just one of many examples.
She could have had 701 days and would have still lost that race.
But you're right. The data says it's cost of living, it's inflation, it's immigration, illegal immigration. Right. All those things. Everything else is at the bottom.
And by the way,
law and order crime.
107 days, way too many for anybody, but including her.
Right.
But the more they got to know her, the less they liked her. I've said this many times on this show. Other countries don't do this. They don't have years to run.
And Maher was spot on. The more Americans saw of Kamala Harris, the faster the illusion cracked. Can anyone really blame them? Every move felt staged. The celebrity endorsements, the perfectly lit photo ops, and the forced charm that never quite landed. It wasn't authenticity. It was political theater on its last breath. Beneath the shine and the buzzwords, there was just emptiness. A haze of rehearsed lines and that nervous, high-pitched laugh that could shatter glass. When real questions hit, she'd fumble, deflect, or unleash the now infamous Kamala cackle. It became glaringly obvious she wasn't built for the heat or the heavy lifting of leadership. Americans wanted sincerity and substance, but all they got was a campaign powered by optics. Maher didn't need to tear her down. She did that herself by proving there was nothing real underneath.
That's going to be hard to get rid of. They've tried. But no, it's like you don't need 100 days. You need 107 days. You tell people your plan. This is what I am for. This is my thing. You're selling something. You're selling a vacuum cleaner. If I'm selling a vacuum cleaner, I'll tell you why I think it's best. Am I going to tell you every goddamn day for 2 years?
In the end, Maher's takedown of Kamala Harris and the Democratic establishment was nothing short of a masterclass in unfiltered truth, sharp, relentless, and painfully accurate. The DNC is adrift, leaderless, and disconnected from the heartbeat of real Americans. Between Kamala's Olympic-level blame games, The View's fake bravery, and the party's tunnel vision obsession with Trump, It's obvious the movement has lost its soul somewhere between hashtags and hubris. Maher simply said what millions have been quietly thinking. The Democrats aren't losing because of Trump, they're losing despite him. Until they bury the cult of wokeness and rediscover the meaning of accountability, they'll keep writing memoirs of defeat instead of stories of redemption. And that's a wrap for today's video. If you enjoyed this one, smash that like button, hit subscribe for more razor-sharp commentary, and as always, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.